Mastercast Radio.
Yes, welcome to Mastercast Radio. I am your host, Andrew Rosa, and today I am having a conversation with an industry legend, Jane Whittaker. Now, some more casual players may not be as familiar with the name, but maybe you'll be familiar with his accomplishments, namely Alien vs. Predator on the Atari Jaguar. He's even provided input on GoldenEye 007 for the Nintendo 64, The Sims. He's held senior management roles at Atari, MGM, EA. He even worked on the launch title for 3DO's M2. The game was Power Crystal. Now, I know that's kind of like a myth for some people because there just isn't a whole wealth of information on it. People have been dying to see footage of that game in action. And yeah, this really, throughout 34-year career, 34 now, 35?
You're just making me sound old. 1984 was when I left school and joined the industry officially. But I was doing games from '81.
Oh my God! And how old were you when you started?
I was 13.
I was not doing anything remotely that impressive when I was 13.
I had my head in books reading machine code language.
When you joined the industry, who did you join with? Like, where did you cut your teeth, so to speak?
Well, that's a double answer, as strange as it may seem, because I'll tell you the stuff before I left school for the industry and the stuff after. Because before I left school, I was in the hospital, and as many of you know, I was a Siamese twin. I think the only one in the industry. And so to keep myself sane during 65 surgeries, I taught myself to code, and I did a game called Stellar Trader for the Sinclair ZX81. You guys in the US, I think you called them the Timex, wasn't it?
Perhaps.
Yeah, it was a Timex 80 something. It was the Sinclair ZX81 in 1981, hence the 81 in the machine name. And I was doing the games to amuse myself. And my dad came to me in the hospital. He said, these games are good. Why don't you try and sell them? And I thought, okay, a bit of pocket money. And I thought nothing more than that. And he advertised for me in various magazines, because in those days all game sales were mail order. You sold your own games in classified ads. That was the industry. The publishers were only just starting up, and I thought nothing of it until my dad came back to me only a couple of weeks later. He said, "It's getting to a stage where I'm going to have to give up my day job because I'm copying cassettes night and day, and you've sold 100,000 copies." So that was my first release, and it purely was written just for me, nobody else, and I had no idea people wanted to buy it. And I got noticed by a fledgling publishing company called Firebird. There was Firebird, Rainbird, and Microprose, which was the three labels for that publishing company. And I was, 13 and a half or something. And those of you that are memory as long as mine will remember Microprose as being Wild Bill Steely and Sid Meier. And of course, if I remember rightly, Civ 1 came out under the Microprose brand. And I got asked by them, would you like to get involved with our new publishing company and do games for us? So I'm talking 1982, pushing 1983, and you got Sid Meier and Wild Bill Steely saying, "Do you want to do games with us?" So that relationship goes back a long time. So I did various coin-op conversions. There was a title called Flying Shark, which was a Tato coin-op. I did conversions for that, and Magnetron, and a version of a game called Morpheus. There was lots and lots of 8-bit titles that I did. Incidentally, for those of you who don't know Flying Shark, it was a sequel to 1942. I think most coin-op aficionados remember 1942.
I remember that.
Well, Flying Shark was the sequel to that by Tato on the coin-op. That was an interesting. Can I digress a bit and mention that game, Andrew? Because it was quite an experience. I was asked to do the title. Can you do the title with the group of the company I was working with at the time, the team? I'd say I was only at school, so company is a bit of a misnomer. And they presented us with the arcade machine, The only thing they'd rigged was we didn't have to pay to play. But apart from that, it was just the standard arcade machine. So I'm expecting specifications and notes and all the rest of it for the conversion. I said, you've got to play it to convert it. We don't have anything. So I literally had to do the conversion where we had to play this game, hope to death we didn't get killed to see what the next level was like to copy it onto the 8-bit machines. We literally had to play it and copy what we saw.
Oh, wow.
And that was just like the bizarrest project I've ever worked on. So like how are these aliens going to move around? How are these ships going to move? And what's on level 2? And what's the scrolling like? And all this sort of stuff. Where we literally just had to play it through. And we had to ship in 6 weeks, start to finish too.
Oh my God!
So we had to be literally night and day playing this game with the handheld video camera to try and video what the game was like. And we were very lucky that I think it was week 2 before we'd even completed the game and had enough footage to know what it all was about. And we literally had to code that. Now it was all in assembly language from scratch. There was no support at all. So we had to do it for the Spectrum. The Amstrad machines, which was another big machine in the UK, Commodore 64, and other formats, 6 weeks start to finish, totally done by eye. That was my welcome to the industry.
That's one hell of a rough welcome.
Yes, and then they said, oh well, can you do the music? I'm like, I don't know anything about music. And Steve Turner, who I was working with at the time, Steve says to me, well, we're so busy, you're going to have to do the sound drivers. To me, music was just an LP, and that was it, showing my age again. And I'm like, I don't know how to do sound drivers, I don't know how to do music. And he's like, well, you've got a week.
Oh, my. Oh.
I actually wrote the sound driver in a week and managed to replicate the sound purely by ear with this silly sound driver I had to write. So if anyone playing it now, and here's the title music, sounds a bit wonky in places. That's because I had a week to do it and I'd never even touched the sound before. So that was back in the days when you did the code, you did the graphics, you did the sound, you did the design, you did everything. In fact, I even did the delivery of that to Microprose because we did the Gold Master, which was on cassette in those days. And I was asked to take the Gold Master to the publisher. So I was 14 years old, and I was packed off on a train holding this Gold Master saying, whatever you do, don't lose it, it's valuable, and go and present it to the publisher by hand. So I had like a 500-mile train journey, panicking with this cassette in my pocket to hand over the Gold Master. And I got Program of the Year award for it, that game. And I was just not expecting anything of the sort. And it was literally 6 weeks, and here you go on the train, go and hand it in to the guy at the publishing company, and let's hope it works. So that was 13 years old.
Oh.
And by just before the age of 16, in the UK, you can leave school at 16 or 18.
Oh.
If you leave at 16, you don't go on to further education, basically. You just cut off your education there. If you want to go to university, etc., you stay to 18 at school, and then you go to university. Just before my 16th birthday, I was planning university and all the rest of it. And Atari turned up, literally. Sam and Jack Trammell, who you guys will know from Andrew's Jaguar stuff. And it's fantastic, by the way, your Jaguar stuff, Andrew. Thank you. Love it.
Oh, thank you.
So Sam and Jack turned up at my house and said, would you like to come to America? I'm like, what, weekend? No, to live. we want you to leave school. We want you to leave school now. And we want you to come and join Atari in Sunnyvale. I'm like, okay. I'm still 15, waiting my 16th birthday. And my parents said, well, this is fine. But they couldn't move. They had family commitments here. And they said, well, on the proviso that I was looked after, properly looked after. So I was taken out to Sunnyvale and really looked after by the Trammell family. And I think, how many people have had that opportunity to get your first 6 or 7 games published before you leave school by the Microprose crowd with Sid Meier, and then at 16 go and join Atari and work and live with the Trammell. So I think I had a double start to life, really, a start before leaving school and a start after. But I was mentored by the Trammells and Sid Meier and others at 13 years old, between 13 and 16, which I don't think many of us have had that opportunity, so I'm very grateful.
I know many people that would give their left nut or both boobs.
That sounds painful.
Well, I wouldn't miss mine. It's misshapen and weird.
Okay, we're
But
moving swiftly onwards.
but it's like to have that kind of opportunity. It's just wild. It's not something that you hear often. And
No, that's right.
yeah,
Andrew, people don't believe me. I get it all the time. Like, no, that's not true. So I go rummaging back through all my stuff and say, here you go, here's the game, here's the credits. And luckily, Sam Trammell has said, oh yeah, came to visit my parents, spent time with my dad, goes out, he likes to have a drink of Newcastle Brown Ale with my dad, still keeps in contact all these years later.
Well, I think it's hard for people to believe because you're kind of living the dream. I mean, you had an opportunity nobody really ever gets. Like, you're the first person I've ever talked to. Like, I've heard some rather miraculous stories, but nothing comes close to that. And especially for Americans not quite understanding how, other countries have a different way of working. Like that, like I had no idea you could just like leave school at 16.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's like, whoa, okay. I learned something new. I just see that peacock from NBC. It's like, the more you know. And,
yeah, exactly. And I don't regret leaving school when I did. I actually did go into further education later, but in my spare time, I did part-time university courses in various subjects. I got multiple degrees now, but I just did them for fun in my spare time rather than a career. I mean, what I was doing at 16, just before 16, I was learning about 3D engines and open world and all this stuff. The very first open world game for the 16-bit machines, at least, was a game called Midwinter, which was published by Microprose, and I got introduced to Mike Singleton. And for those who remember Mike, if you Google him, he's passed away, unfortunately. He was a lovely man. But if you Google Mike Singleton, you'll see in his obituary he's referred to as the father of home computing. And Mike was a guy who actually invented solid 3D. It was just wireframe before Mike, and he also invented texture mapping. So I mean, how lucky was I that he joined the clan with Sid, and this guy taught me 3D and texture mapping at 14, 15 years old. And it was literally the designer of the texture map. And he did the first open world game was Lords of Midnight on the Spectrum computer, and that was Mike. I wasn't involved in that. And but then for around the Atari ST, that was coming to the fore, and there was the series Midwinter, and I was lucky to get involved with that with Mike, and I'm even credited on Midwinter 3. And I was such a little kid, but they credited me for data entry, which by today's standards, well, actually I worked on the level design with Mike. I spent weeks on level design, but that was credited as the first proper open world game. If you guys want to Google it, it was a huge 3D game, going up and down ski lifts and skiing across barren landscapes, doing the James Bond thing, shooting with your ski sticks and everything. It was an incredible game. It was hundreds of square miles of game, and that was where I cut my teeth. Thanks to the Microprose crowd getting me involved, so I went straight into getting to know Mike and working on this project with Mike. It was incredibly exciting.
Wow. Just now I want to play Midwinter because I had never heard of it prior to talking to you.
Yeah, because I don't know as many people remember it, but it did over 1 million units, just Midwinter 1. It was huge. It came out on the Rainbird label in the UK and Microprose in the US. And it defined the genre. I was very lucky, and I've said it in interviews before that I knew Mike as a kid, and I actually got to be with Mike when he came up with the idea. Now I'm going to be very careful saying it's not my idea. I got accused recently. Someone said, "You can't lay claim to Mike's ideas," and I'm like, no, I would never do that. Mike still is, I guess, a complete genius. So to be very, very clear, it wasn't my idea; it was Mike's. that I was there when he came up with it. And how wonderful is that? I was in the. Sorry, I'm digressing away, Andrew. It's going to be a 7-hour interview for all you guys.
Yeah.
I was in the UK in a restaurant in Liverpool, a Chinese restaurant in Liverpool in the UK, and Mike suddenly had the idea for a war game, and Mike and I started fighting each other with cutlery. Right, the forks are your army, and the knives are mine. And we were tabletop war gaming. It was like Warhammer with cutlery. And we just took over this Chinese restaurant and was taking all the cutlery we could find to set up armies to fight each other. And that's where the midwinter game idea came from. Literally, we sat there over this dining table with various industry luminaries there, and we were desktop wargaming in the middle of a Chinese restaurant, throwing pork balls at each other. I kid you not, it was quite the experience.
I have no doubt, and please don't feel bad about digressing, because really, even if this were a 7-hour interview, I know a lot of people would want to hear it. So, because these are the stories.
In interview part 1 to 7, I'll 7 weeks worth of your output, Andrew. Sorry.
Hey.
I have very fond memories of those days, because they were my founding years, and it's really helped me in what I've done since. I mean, I was taught how to write machine code properly. I was taught 3D algorithms. I was taught AI. I was taught so much stuff. I mean, with Mike and being around Sid Meier and the Atari guys, and I had a lot of life skills taught to me by Jack Tramiel. Always upsets me. I'm going to digress again. Sorry. Always upsets me when I see people talking about, Jack was bad and Jack did this and Jack did the other. You know what? To know Jack personally, it was very hard in business, but to know Jack personally, he was the kindest, sweetest man you'd ever meet. He was an absolutely incredible man, and he taught me a great deal about how to be a good human being. Never mind code, never mind work. I mean, Jack, I don't know how many of you know, but Jack was in Auschwitz and lost most of his family, and he came out as a kid in rags, just literally in rags. He had nothing, no family, nothing. He'd seen all of his family exterminated. It was just horrendous. And to make some money, he started repairing typewriters from the American journalists who were covering the Auschwitz and Belsen stories. Of course, the reporters were there, and he repaired their typewriters just to get food, to survive. And then he progressed to actually buying one of these typewriters and sold it and made some money. And before he knew where he was running a typewriter business straight out of Auschwitz. And at that point, he thought, well, I'm going to set it up as a formal company. That's where Commodore Computers was born, out of Auschwitz. Long before they bought Atari. So at one point, there were Commodore and Atari at the same time. So he literally set up Commodore as a typewriter company, which became a calculator company, which became the computer company we all know with the Amiga. And then, of course, they bought Atari with the Atari ST and all the rest of it. But Jack would sit down and tell me, how to be a good person no matter what gets thrown at you. And it's a very humbling experience to class the man as my friend and mentor, given his background.
Well, that is something that I've always found. Like I don't make any judgments, because so many people seem to have different experiences with the Tramels, and some would say, much like you, like knowing him personally was wonderful, quite lovely, but he was very firm in business. And then some said he was absolutely, and some would say that he was absolutely like tyrannical in business. And I don't know, I'm not there, but with that many conflicting stories, I'm just kind of like, I'd much rather hear it from somebody who actually dealt with him more personally and just get that sense, because I know some people can misinterpret things, like if you're hard in business, then you're an asshole. And I'm like, I don't think it's quite that cut and dry. I think
it was a control freak, and I can quite understand why. It wasn't really, I think tyrannical was the wrong word. He wanted to micromanage and be in control of everything. And given how he built his business from just himself in rags, I can see why he couldn't let go.
No, totally understandable. But I liked a lot of his ideas. Wasn't it power without the price?
That's right. That's right.
No, I thought that was
exactly
actually
right, and that's.
I thought that was a fantastic idea.
I spent so much time with all of them, Sam and Gary, Leonard. I spent most of my founding years with the whole family. Leonard and I would go out for a burger. Leonard, Sam's brother, was an astrophysicist. He was also part of Atari. And Sam and Leonard and I would go out for burgers every Friday night at a place called Cal's Diner in Sunnyvale. I don't know if it's still there. So I spent my life with the family. When I finished Alien vs Predator, which I'm sort of stepping ahead 10 years here, but when I finished Alien vs Predator, Sam, to show you how good the Trammell family are, Sam came to me, and his daughter arrived, Sarah, and Sam and Sarah came into my office, and Sarah said, "Here's the keys to my new sports car. I've only had it a week, but you and your girlfriend are going to go around California with it." He said, "Because we're so grateful for what you've done with AVP." Sarah said, "You're going to take my car. You and your girlfriend are just going to go touring California." And then Sam reached into his pocket and gave me $20,000 in cash and said, "You don't come back till you spent it."
Wow. No, that's a very different kind of story from the ones that people like to tell.
Yeah, absolutely right.
My
absolutely
God,
right.
how old were you?
That was well, on the AVP, early mid-20s, I guess, something like that. Something like that, yeah. I used to have a regular. Sam and I used to tease each other constantly. Every morning, I would sneak. He never locked his office, so every morning in the Borrega's office in Sunnyvale, I'd go and steal his coffee machine, get my coffee going in the dev corner, and then I'd go out for lunch. And every lunchtime, I'd steal the coffee machine back. We did this for some, maybe a year backwards and forwards, stealing the coffee machine. And then I walked in one morning, I had my very own coffee machine with a bow and a gift tag on it. So it was the best place I ever worked in my career was with the Trammells. It really was. So I do get upset that sometimes people want to knock them. I know nobody's perfect, none of us are. But they were genuinely really kind and really good to me and my family, and it involved me in an incredible career.
Well, I imagine too, like especially during the time of the Jaguar. I mean, you have a guy that's just kind of struggling to keep the business going. You're trying to sell a new platform, and it's kind of now your family legacy. I mean, this is something that's going to your children, and you're and you're responsible for so many people's payment and funding and so on and so forth. That's a lot of pressure and obligation.
Intense pressure, absolutely intense pressure.
Yeah, because
and it was funny that era. I mean, I worked with them on the ST and various other things, but that Jaguar era, which wasn't doing so well, we all know, and I won't pull punches. But that was actually the best time to work at Atari because everyone pulled together as a family. There was a real family atmosphere from the testers to the office cleaner. Up to Sam and Jack, everybody was a family, and that's incredible. Sometimes in adversity, you fight and bicker, but not in that office. In adversity, everyone clubbed together and became a family to try and get those games out.
Well, no, I mean, again, that's pleasant to hear. Like, well, I know one story that came out recently. Like, apparently there was some work being done on the Jaguar 2, and like Jack just looked at it and threw it across the wall and said, "Everybody's fired." Like, that sounds a bit extreme. But again, I'm not there. I didn't know the man. So
that happened, but it wasn't Jack. I won't say who it was. It wasn't Sam either. That did happen, but wrongly attributed to Jack. And it was just one of the Atari founders who lost his temper. It did happen.
Ah, okay. So, see, that's another thing, too. A lot of folks, when they recount their stories, they forget. I mean, of course, it was like 20 years ago. But
I've got a near photographic memory. I've been blessed with that. So I remember virtually everyone I've worked with, and even hotels I've stayed in and when for the last 30 years.
Oh, my God.
I've been very, very, very lucky. That's why I think I became a coder, because I just remembered all the instruction sets. I would just sort of sit and read the book and memorize the instruction set, and away I'd go and mess with it.
Mm. But
But no, I mean, to just going back to the Jaguar, the frustrating thing, but it used to make me laugh in the end, was poor John Matheson. John was the designer of the Jaguar. Flair, do you remember Flair Technology? That was the original company.
yes, I had read about it.
Yeah, and John, I'd come into work in the morning and I'd be running a build of AVP, and it wouldn't work on the test machine. And like it worked when I left. We've changed the instruction set during the night. Like, John, no. And this happened many times. You come in the morning and your code wouldn't work anymore. Oh well, that instruction isn't there anymore. I'm like, what?
Oh my!
And because the machine was being developed in parallel with AVP, so the machine hadn't been nailed down in terms of its features and specifications down to the individual instructions on the Tom and Jerry the Tom and Jerry DSP chips. Those instructions were in flux virtually until we shipped AVP. Until that day that Jaguar came out, those instructions were changing by the hour.
Oh
So
man!
it was literally code was changing by the minute. You're running things like, where is it, John? It's gone.
Oh man! So when you came on to like AVP, well, just out of curiosity, I mean, were you like a movie fan? I mean, did you enjoy the series? Was that a big thing for you? So it was like, oh my god, I get to work on Alien versus Predator, or was it like, oh well, we need to get this game out? Like, did you come at it as a fan or like as just pure tech?
I was a fan, an absolute unadmitted fan, and I still am. Even though during the making of the game we must have seen the movie 200 times. But yeah, I was a total complete fan. But I'd worked with H.R. Giger before. Giger was the guy who invented the Alien, of course, and
Right.
the set design for Alien. But I'd worked with Giger some years before on a title called Darkseid, which did very well across the US. It was a point-and-click Sierra-style adventure.
Yeah, I
So
got
I'd already had that experience with Giga before I came onto the Alien license. It felt like a natural fit for me.
I actually got
But it was,
I'm sorry. Please
go on,
continue.
carry on.
Well, I was just going to say I actually picked up Darkseid for the Saturn, the Japanese import. So,
Yes.
yeah.
I went to. Sorry, carry on.
Oh no, I was just going to say I had some difficulty with it because like there's voice acting throughout the game, which is in English, but a lot of the instructions are actually in Japanese. So I'm having to kind of like work my way through it through trial and error, just trying to get through.
You find the hard way, Andrew. That's all I'm going to say. But I got to work on the Amiga version of Darkseid. I went out to Detroit and was in Detroit for some months, working with an Italian Scottish American family with a young chap called Mike, who was the main coder. So I spent time with him and his family in Detroit, and we built and worked on the Amiga Darkseid there, which was quite the experience. I was put in a hotel in downtown Detroit, and people didn't realize it wasn't the best hotel. So I'm sorry, and I won't get sued by naming the hotel chain. But the first thing the chap said to me when he gave me my room key was, "Don't forget to block your door with furniture." Okay.
In Detroit? Like, never.
Yeah. And he said, "Barricade yourself in." I'm like, "No, you're kidding me." I said, "I'm English. You're poking fun at me." He's like, "No, barricade yourself in." And I'm laid in bed on the night making notes for Darkseid, and I'm hearing bang, 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 and there was literally shooting going on within my hearing distance. I'm like, "Oh no, this isn't good." And that was my founding memories of H.R. Giger and Darkseid was gunshots whizzing across this motel.
That sounds like the perfect atmosphere for that kind of game.
Well,
I mean,
exactly.
Meanwhile, you're lying in bed going, "Only in America."
Absolutely right. But at least I could get up in the morning for Denny's Grand Slam, and I miss them.
Oh, Denny's.
Yeah, so that and I did start listening to dark and weird music and Pink Floyd and all this sort of stuff at the time, purely to get my mind in that mindset for the title. I tend to soak up atmosphere before I start each game to get my mind into the theme of the game. So that's something I've always done throughout my career. So, but yeah, so it was a very weird time of my life, but it led directly to me doing Alien versus Predator, and I still feel proud of that game. I know people knock it, but I still love it.
I feel like the general consensus about Alien versus Predator on the Jaguar is that, you know, you have people that are mindful of the period. You know, they see it with a sense of period and understand, too, that it's not meant to be Doom. It's not meant to be Wolfenstein. This is a survival horror experience. It's not about
Right.
frenetic, nonstop action with, you know, guitars blaring and, you know, entrails spraying everywhere. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with those kind of games. I fucking love Doom and Wolfenstein. They're fun games. But for Alien versus Predator, it's a survival horror experience. It makes you feel like you're on Camp Golgotha. And
Precisely.
yeah, and that's something that I appreciate. And I know some people, like, don't get me wrong, I'm a little 50-50 with certain games when there's no music. Like when I play something like Trevor McFur in the Crescent Galaxy. Yeah, that feels a little weird not having music. But
Also produced by Purple, who produced AVP for us.
oh, but
Same producer.
oh, you know, well, right on. I mean, but that's like a game you expect to have, you know, some really good tunes to follow up on that action, because it's a very action-heavy game where something
Agreed.
like, yeah, and Alien versus Predator, that's an experience. That is something that
Oh, I'm
feels,
glad you say that.
well, yeah, because
I'm really grateful.
well, to me, you know, I'm a movie guy. I'm all about trying to, and I love games that try and put you in that atmosphere, make you feel as if you're a part of it. It's not a purely objective experience. It's trying to really suck you in. And yeah, even the game's narrative, I mean, really, you're playing a simulation of events that took place on Golgotha. So it has an almost VR appeal to it.
Yes.
And that was something that kind of got to me very, very, very quickly. And like, I know a lot of people told me, like, just as I was getting into the Jaguar, one of the big titles I wanted was Alien versus Predator. That was the first game I ever played on Jaguar when there was a big chain store called Incredible Universe, and it was a huge tech store. It had all kinds of stuff, like all the latest gaming consoles, even appliances, major appliances, the latest televisions, stereos, laserdisc players, you name it, they had it. And you had to have like a membership in order to shop there, but we would just go in and check out stuff. And they had a Jaguar kiosk, and they had Alien versus Predator in it. And I remember just staying there for like 20 minutes while my brother went off and played something else. And I'm just like, I want this game. And so I was like so pumped when I finally was going to get a copy, and everyone just kept telling me, at least a good portion of people kept telling me, oh, adjust your expectations. It's going to be this, it's going to be that. It's really not that great. And I'm like, I don't know about that, but you know, it has been quite a few years since I played it. Who knows? Maybe it just won't live up to my memory. Maybe it will end up like Technocop, where I just remember it being awesome, but then I revisit it and go, oh, well, shit.
Yeah.
But no, I played that game with shitty RF. Like, I didn't have my composite cables yet. I just had the RF feeding into my HD TV, and it looked horrible. It had all the snow going on for it. But it had that diffusion. But I was playing it for 3 hours straight, just as the Marine.
Fantastic. And that was what we were genuinely aiming for. Mike, the other programmer, Mike Beaton, and Purple Hampton, who's a genius producer, seriously. Best producer I've ever worked with, and that's no offense to anybody else. And we got together, and what we really wanted was that survival horror stealth dynamic. We never wanted it to be an FPS, because we saw the Alien movies so many times, and we still jumped at the scary scenes, no matter how many times you see it, or when you see the bursting out of John Hurt's chest or something. You never get over that, no matter how many times you see it. And we wanted that to be something that would scare you in a dark room. That was the entire crux of the game. We wanted to take that essence of what we saw in the Alien movie, and which was fear. And we wanted to put that fear and that nervousness into you that no matter what room you go into, you don't know what's going to happen, and you're going to have to be stealthy. You're going to have to think about what you're doing. So we didn't want it to be an FPS by any stretch of the imagination. And no disrespect to John Carmack, and the Doom games and all the rest of it. John was actually next cubicle to me at Atari for quite a while. We were just a little divider between us who was developing these games.
Oh, because he was working on the Doom conversion, right?
Yeah, that's right, absolutely right. Yeah.
Okay.
So we literally could compare, 6 inches apart both screens, and we could see both games. But yeah, we didn't want that. John is marvelous and fantastic at doing that, but it's not what we wanted. We wanted you to be in this dark room and to be scared the hell out of it. And we actually did that at Atari. We put the game on a big screen, closed all the curtains, made it really, really dark. Sat the testers there in the middle of the night, literally, and said, "Go and play this." And they came out shaking, looking like they needed a hot meal. And we thought, we've got it right.
Yeah. Oh man, I still get scared shitless when I have to go on to the Xenomorph Craft. Because when I have to get in there, it just literally becomes like a greater maze than anything on Golgotha. So and you have all of the secreted resin archways and the eggs, and you find like corpses of Marines and doctors, and I'm just like desperate. I'm like, please have a med kit, please have a med kit, please have a med kit.
And that's exactly what we wanted to happen. I'll tell you a little anecdote on that when you talk about corpses of the Marines and doctors. When we had the mode where you could play as the Marine, and the alien and the predators were in the world simultaneously, and you were the Marine trying to hunt down the aliens and the predators. And on the first few builds when I did the AI, the player was walking around, and there was nothing but corpses. So I've made the predator too smart, and he was just going crazy, wiping everybody out. And they're just laughing. And what he decided was, if he killed all the aliens and killed everything but you, he could toy with you and play with you. And we had that laugh sound effect and stuff. It would frighten the hell out of me as I was writing the AI. Literally, I was terrified. When I was playing this thing, you would think, I wrote this code. Why is it scaring me? And what I had to do in the end was I had to tone down the predator, because he was just this one-man killing machine who would just wipe out everything and say, now I can go for the player. So what we did was we toned him down, but as an in-joke, and it's still in there. I'll have to try and remember the keys. There are some button presses to show this, where the predator goes off in the side room and he sits down and has a smoke break, gives the player a chance to do something. So he just goes and sits and has a smoke in the corner room while the room's out of view, just so he wasn't. He's like, I'll take a break from killing guys. I'll just smoke and have a drink for 10 minutes. Is that okay? And that's how we toned the predator's AI down. Sent him off the smoke break, so there's still something left for you to kill.
That's still in the game. You can do that.
Yeah. Oh. I'll try and find out and remember I'll go back through my source code. But there's a button press combination where you can change the camera to see the predator sat there smoking.
Oh man. Oh yeah. If you can find that, I need to see this. It sounds, because I've actually heard this before, and somebody was like, "Nah, I'm sure Whittaker was just taking a piss and having a laugh."
No,
Really?
No, we actually did it. It was it was the idea. I wanted the predator out of the way for a while because he was far too aggressive. And even when I toned his aggression down, he was still aggressive. But we actually did that as a bit of internal fun. We stuck him in a room for a smoke.
No, what kills me now, like recently, I got really into the idea of grinding for points. And like I've gotten like over 18 million points or something like that as the Marine. But
that's probably more than me.
No, well, I that's a lot of grinding where I'll go and clear every level, and rearm. I have pretty much all of the weapons cache memorized on each level that I can find. And then I kill them all, I go back, I restock, then I hop in the elevator, save, and go back and do it all over again. Yeah, that's the only way to really do it. But once I started doing it the thing is that once I get into level 4, especially because that's the maze, or the training center.
Yeah.
Oh man, I've played the game so much, but still, whenever I walk past a door and I'll just hear that, "Come on," I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like,
Exactly.
and I'm looking at the radar. I'm like, "Oh fuck, is he actually in the hall, or is he behind the wall?" Better be behind the
Yeah,
wall.
precisely. Precisely. You just never knew, did you? And that was the whole thing we wanted to recreate in that game.
Well,
And I got told that only last year we garnered an award as for the scariest game of all time still. So I thought that was, job done.
and that's great to see because like some games have like it's kind of sad like Kenji Eno when he made D, which came out for the 3DO and was later ported to PlayStation, Saturn. I have the Saturn copy.
Yes.
I reviewed that, and I actually really like the game. I think it's very unique. I like it's frustrating, but it's kind of meant to be. um, but it kind of killed me to see how like Game Informer magazine labeled it as one of like the worst horror games ever made. I'm like, don't judge it by today's standards because seriously, but even beyond just today's standards, people have different expectations of horror today in video games. I get it, but that was a different kind of genre. It was wanting to be a more cinematic experience, and you can bitch and moan about the lack of a save feature, but the game warned you up front. That's part of the difficulty. You're given 2 hours to make this happen, and you get the different outcomes. That's where the replay value comes in. And after you've solved a lot of these puzzles, you're going to have that figured out. Your time's going to get better. You're going to see more of the endings. It's an experience that expects you to play it over and over again.
Yes.
But again, I think some people are, they don't look at things. I don't think they have perspective sometimes when judging some of these games. And I wish more people would actually be able to. It's one thing that does kind of suck. And as much as I am all about, having the righteous hardware, I would like it if someday, if it were at all possible, to make like Alien versus Predator available on multiple, current gen platforms. I know it's, rights issues, how the game was coded for the platform and so on. So it may very well be difficult. I don't know. I'm not a coder. But it would be great to see if, other people that don't do the retro console thing but would like to experience it would be able to get it like on PSN or XBLA. I think that would be awesome.
Yes. And I hope somebody would ask me to be involved because I'd love to revisit.
That would be great to see. I mean, at first, for a long time, I thought you may have still have been involved for the new Alien versus Predator that had come out like on PS3 and Xbox 360. Yeah.
No, I moved to MGM shortly after AVP, so I sort of that was my one and only dip into the franchise.
That's a damn shame. But let me just say this before we move on to that. I don't think ranking the fear level on the games, like the only other Alien game I've played where it's really that scary as Alien versus Predator. I think the only thing that really comes close to that is Alien Isolation.
Yes.
That's an awesome game. I love that it took a different approach. It took an approach more akin to what you did with Alien versus Predator, where it's more about survival horror. It's not it didn't go the Alien trilogy route where it's more like Doom but with xenomorphs.
Yes, I agree. And it was a brave decision. I think it worked out really, really well for them. It's a game I still play, even though I know the Alien game I still play. So they did a great job, and all credit to them.
Oh yeah, fantastic work. I was with SegaBits.com when that game came out, and they actually hooked us up with a copy to review, which was great. I still need to get it for PS4 though, because it does look significantly better on PS4 as opposed to PS3. But okay, now I'm curious. How did MGM happen?
This is Snake. Do you read me? If you've made it this far,
then you've enjoyed this episode of Mastercast Radio. Be sure to tune in next time when Jane Whittaker discusses his time with 3DO, the M2, Power Crystal, and what lies ahead. Until next time, remember, who dares